Welcome back to the Champagne on Ice podcast presented by the Field of 68. The Illini are Big Ten champions. They win the Big Ten tournament, second time in 4 seasons that the Illini are cutting down nets at the Big Ten tournament. They beat Ohio State, they beat Nebraska, and they beat Wisconsin for the 8th straight time to lock up the title. We will break it all down right here. I'm Kyle Tausk, joined as always by my co-host Mike Farmer. And before we get into it, do just want to disclose kind of what our plans are here. This episode, the one you're listening to right now, will strictly be talking Big Ten tournament. We wanted to separate 2 different episodes here, give a Big Ten title its fair due, break down the 3 games of basketball on their own from over the weekend in Minneapolis. And then tomorrow, we will release a second episode strictly focused on the selection show, the bracket. Illinois is a 3 seed in the East region, and we will talk about their draw, their first-round opponent, Morehead State. So that'll be on tomorrow's episode. So stay tuned for that. This one will be Big Ten title focus. So, Mike, how you doing? How you feeling? Big Ten champs once again for the Illini.
I'm feeling great, man. It is such a great feeling to play in that final game right before the selection show and to win it 2 times in the last 4 years. Just awesome. Then you get to see the draw, see where Illinois is headed, see who they're playing, potential route to a Final Four or just a second weekend, hopefully. But yeah, I mean, awesome 3 games this week for Illinois. Came back in every single one. Looked like they could have easily lost every single one, and somehow they found a way. Go 3-0, beat Ohio State, beat Nebraska, beat Wisconsin, and you're Big Ten champs for the second time in 4 years. And you got the regular season title 2 years back, so things are looking good in Champaign, Illinois right now.
3 Big Ten banners in 4 seasons is pretty unbelievable, and that's the same amount that Purdue has in the last 4 seasons with how dominant they've been, and it's tied for most in the conference. And obviously the stat gets thrown out there all the time. In the last 5 years, once Brad Underwood fully turned this Illinois program around and had that breakthrough season in 2019-20, over this past 5-year stretch, Illinois has won more Big Ten games, Big Ten tournament included, than anybody. So it's a golden era of Illinois basketball right now, and just to celebrate another net cutting ceremony and Big Ten banner that's going to go up in State Farm Center for the 3rd time in 4 seasons. Pretty special, pretty lucky to be attending Illinois around this time. Pretty fun time to be watching some hoops. But yeah, it was a kind of a crazy run because you mentioned it. Illinois was down double digits in all 3 games. They were down 10 or more in all 3 games. Obviously a huge comeback against Nebraska in the semifinal. Terrence Shannon Jr. had maybe the best 3-game stretch, and I tweeted this because obviously I've only been alive 20 years now, but it might be the best 3-game stretch considering the implications, the stage it was on, and just the sheer dominance of it that any Illinois player's ever had. I mean, 28 points against Ohio State in the quarterfinal, 40 against Nebraska, most ever at the Big Ten tournament, 34 in the title game, including a cold-blooded clutch 3 with a minute and a half to go that ended up being the game-winning bucket. And Illinois just found ways to come back, and Terrence Shannon led them through it. And that was a National Player of the Year, first-team All-American level run, and one of the best runs I've watched an Illinois player have through 3 games. What was your biggest takeaway from the run, from Terrence Shannon's performance, anything?
Just like I tweeted it, I forget which game it was, Ohio State or Nebraska, but I tweeted on our Twitter account, like the thing we talked about all season is Illinois is in every single game. They have 8 losses, I think, all by less than 10 points. All like it could have gone back and forth towards the end. Illinois could have won this game, could have lost this one. And then also Illinois is never out of a game, and they always find a way to come back, just to get back in a game, have a nice run from somebody like Dane Danger, maybe Marcus Damas gets hot. Terrence Shannon was really hot the whole weekend, but he had some stretches by himself where he just brought Illinois right back into the game. And that's what we've seen all year. Obviously, Terrence Shannon he went a bit crazier this weekend with averaging like 35 points a game, puts up 40 in the semifinals. Just every time he touched the ball, it felt like he was going to draw a foul and make 2 free throws or get an and one, get a 3, whatever it was. Just unbelievably dominant performance from Terrence Shannon this weekend. I really don't, like, I'm the same as you. I'm 19. But I can't think of a 3-game stretch, even like a couple game stretch where somebody was more dominant than Terrence Shannon Jr. was this weekend. Because, man, it was like even defensively too, if you want to include that.
Oh, for
Kind of
sure.
locking up Tominaga, locking up AJ, or not really locking up AJ Store, but AJ Store was pretty inefficient for the most part today. So just offensively, defensively, in transition, he's rebounding, he's making some plays, he's making some passes too, like just dominant performance. Awesome weekend for Illini hoops. I mean, that was so fun.
Yeah, I mean, defensively, I think overall he was great. That he was outstanding against Tominaga. The fact that you see how many screens that Tominaga runs off of, that guy never stops moving. Terrence Shannon's running with him for 34 minutes on the defensive end, really never leaving his side and putting up 40 on offense. I honestly, if he came out and had 12 points on inefficient shooting in the title game, I couldn't have blamed him after that. I thought he was going to be gassed, and Damask and Coleman maybe were going to have to step up, but he comes back and says, "Nah, 34. Let's get this title." I mean, it's just unbelievable the run that he went on, and just really the entire stretch. I think it gives me a lot more confidence in this team heading into the big tournament. I know that might be a dangerous thing to say, but I feel like we just saw this team win in a different way every single game. Where I know in all of them they had to come back and win, and you would have liked if maybe they started a few of these games faster, with a little more energy, but against Ohio State, it was kind of an uglier game, a game in the 70s, one where their offense wasn't really clicking like it usually is. Damask went 3 for 16 in that game, and it was kind of one that you had to dig deep and grind out and kind of win in the mud, a slower pace game, and they found a way to do it. It was close late, got to the free throw line late and closed that one out. Then against Nebraska, you had to make a huge comeback where all the momentum was on Nebraska's side going into halftime. You gave up 51 at halftime. You're down 15 in the second half, and you just blitz them and have to make a huge comeback, and you win that way. And then Sunday was kind of your classic Illinois shootout. Our offense going to be better than your offense for 40 minutes. Let's put up 90 and get out of here. And that's kind of how they did that. And obviously they had to come back a little bit in that one. But really, that deficit was so short lived. Like Wisconsin went up 10 and Illinois was within one like 2 minutes later. So that was kind of more your typical Illinois performance. Damask and Shannon both showed up. Just they felt like they won all three games a little bit differently. And come March, like come the NCAA tournament, you're going to be in a bunch of different types of games. There's going to be a game where Damas doesn't have it and other guys got to step up. How about Dane Danger coming in off the bench against Ohio State after he hadn't played much all season? 18-8. Illinois doesn't win that game without him. You're probably going to be trailing at one point. If you want to make a deep run, you're going to be down and have to overcome a deficit. And like you said, I don't like obviously you don't want to be down 15 in any game, but if Illinois goes down 15, there you know that in a flip of a switch, they could be right back in the game. And then a good Wisconsin team, a hot Wisconsin team in the championship game, really a back and forth. That one felt like an Elite Eight type of game, just in terms of the intensity and the shot making. Illinois found a way to win, made a couple clutch shots. It's just fun stuff. And that's the team that I think we've been hoping shows up. And obviously, it's not without its flaws, but that's a team that can make a real run coming up here in a week.
The thing I was thinking about the comebacks themselves was it wasn't like Illinois is down 15 at the half and it's some like 18-minute extended run where they're just clawing in it. Like it was like Illinois is down 15 at the under 16 timeout or something, and then within 4 minutes it's like Illinois is down one, and then the next 4 minute stretch Illinois is up eight or something. Like they went on some crazy runs. I don't have exact numbers or anything. I should have researched that earlier, but like some of the runs were just insane. Like Terrence Shannon going right down the court, getting a layup and one, Damask booty balling somebody. It was just so fun to watch offensively. You're putting up like 90 plus in Big Ten semifinal and championship games. Like we've talked a lot about how dominant this offense can be at times, but man, they really showed it this week. Of course, with Terrence Shannon being the focal point. But I want to give credit to one Dane Danger for not only the quarterfinal game, but he was pretty clutch in this championship game too. He put up 9 points, I want to say, good efficiencies. But the 18 points, 8 rebounds in these quarterfinal game against Ohio State, just getting and one after and one, momentum plays, spark plays coming off the bench. Illinois could have so easily lost that game, and we would be like pretty devastated about the outlook on the Illinois season. But a guy like Dane Danger, he's been sitting on the bench the whole season, and he came through. Similar with Damask, it was pretty terrible in the quarterfinal game. Terrible efficiency shooting wise, just could not buy a bucket. And then he bounces back in the semis, 8 assists, another 8 assists in the championship with 25 plus points, I want to say. Just so many things. Like you want to look at Coleman Hawkins, didn't have his best offensive game this weekend, which is fine because Illinois goes 3-0. Like we found ways to survive without him offensively. He had the stretch in January, February where he was dropping 15 or 20 a game. That's not really where he is right now. Like the announcers and the broadcasters were talking a lot about how Coleman Hawkins is passing up 3-pointers here and there. He just doesn't really look like himself offensively. And that was kind of true. But the thing with, like you mentioned a bit about March, like you're going to be down, you're going to need some guys to step up. Coleman Hawkins was able to step up in some really key moments, which was kind of the theme of this weekend, I think. Like guys stepping up, guys doing their jobs when some things aren't really going right, but they managed to find a way and pull through. So I don't know. Like I think the 2021 Big Ten tournament run was a bit more fun because like Illinois was dominating some games. We hadn't seen this out of a Illinois team in 15 years or so. This run was so awesome though. The comeback wins, Terrence Shannon dominating. Just the games were so fun. Like offensively putting up 90 plus points in back-to-back games. I don't know. This team's scary. Like still some issues defensively, of course. Still maybe some turnover issues. I don't want to nitpick. Like that was such a fun weekend of basketball. Overall, in the college basketball landscape too, we'll talk about it a bit later. But the bid Steelers, like the conference tournaments, so much fun. Selection show. We'll get into all that later. But yeah, great week of basketball.
Yeah, one other guy I want to throw in there that I thought was so huge for this team in the last 3 games, Ty Rodgers, I thought was great.
Oh my God, yeah.
12 points, 10 rebounds against Ohio State, 5 offensive rebounds, 8 points, 13 rebounds against Nebraska, throw 4 assists in there, 7 offensive rebounds, and then 7 points, 5 rebounds against Wisconsin, 3 offensive rebounds. I thought he was outstanding, played as good as he's played in a while. He was aggressive too, had some really big buckets. His just ability to just impact the game in so many different ways. Thought he was good defensively and just on the glass. Some of the rebounds he got, like he had one rebound late in the second half against Wisconsin in the championship game where he skied over a 7-footer. I think it was either Steven Crowley, their backup center, or he just out-jumped him for a rebound, kicked it right out to Damas for a huge 3. He was really good, and I agree with you. I think for as good as Shannon was in this tournament, just absolutely dominant, I thought Illinois got the needed contributions from other guys that really allowed them to go on this run. When you think about what Dane gave them, Luke Goody had one big game. I know he struggled in the other 2 games, but huge game against Nebraska. His 4 threes were really big off the bench against Nebraska, really ignited that rally back in the second half. Quincy looked a little bit better. I know his numbers don't really pop off the page, but I think he had 13 points against Nebraska, made some shots, was hitting the glass a little bit. He looked a little bit better. And then, I thought Coleman, while he was a little quieter offensively, just made winning plays. Like Ohio State game, really made winning plays down the stretch. Good rebounder, played really well on the defensive end. Damask, I thought, was doing everything. To see him bounce back from the 3 for 16 game was great. I thought he was actually really, really good the last 2 games, and then just 26 points. I mean, how about his 2 performances against Wisconsin this year? He can finish his career saying, hey, I went back and played my home state school that never really wanted me. 31 points in Madison in a road win, 26, 8, and 7 on 8 for 11 shooting in the Big Ten championship to beat him. I can only imagine, like, his whole family. That's just awesome stuff. But thought Illinois just got a team effort in these games as much as Shannon was kind of the alpha dog. I thought certain guys stepped up. And that's what Illinois is going to need, is they're going to need these role guys. It can't just be 2 guys. They've got one of the better duos in the country. I think that's been established with Terrence Shannon, Marcus Damask. I mean, you heard the CBS broadcast today just drooling over that duo about how dangerous they are. I mean, I don't blame them. Those guys have been so good, but you're going to need the contributions from everybody else. I think someone said it was one of either Bill Raftery or Grant Hill on the broadcast today. It was, they're talking about Terrence Shannon and Marcus Damask and how dangerous they are, but one of them said, like, the X factor for Illinois is going to be which other guys step up, whether that's Coleman, whether that's Guerrier, whether that's Rodgers. I thought a different guy kind of filled that role in each of the games, which was great to see, but it's just exciting stuff, man. And I know there's things that you can look at too, and believe me, it's not very fun when you have to, call a timeout 1 minute into the second half against Nebraska because you're giving up back-to-back layups and giving up 51 points in the first half, and it's kind of a dead energy to that Ohio State game. But you know what? You're going to have to find ways to win when you're not playing your absolute A game, and I don't know if Illinois necessarily played an A game this entire tournament for a full 40 minutes. I guess you could. I mean, the second half against Nebraska was an A plus, but I said they weren't perfect in any of these games, but they just found ways to win. And also, I think we can put the close game, late game concerns to rest because I thought Illinois did a fantastic job closing all three of these games out as well. So it's a great sign heading into March. I keep saying heading into March. This is March, heading into the NCAA tournament. I think it's a great sign to just see Illinois find different ways to win these games with different contributions from a bunch of different guys.
The best month of the year is here, which is why you need to know that we are now partnered with BetMGM. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 all through the NCAA tournament. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use the bonus code FIELD, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM, regardless of whether or not that bet hits. Here's the best part. All you need to do is deposit and bet $10 of your hard-earned money. This is how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you get up to $1,500 in bonus bets, regardless of the outcome of your bet. Just make sure you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. Most importantly, we do have some fun stuff coming for the conference tournaments and especially for the NCAA tournament. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boosts, and what I love the most, a nice parlay boost for anything you could possibly imagine betting on in the NCAA tournament, from odds and getting an at-large bid to Final Four futures to the highest seed to make to the Sweet 16. I'm calling it right now. BetMGM is the king of the prop bet for your March Madness needs. So go download the BetMGM app, use the code FIELD, and sign up today. And while I've got you, a quick request: the best way to support the Field of 68 and our content you get for free is to engage with us. Rate and review the pod, like and share the YouTube videos, tell your friends about us. It helps in a world where the algorithm is king. And now, back to the show.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm thinking back to the Ohio State game. Like, you're down 10 in the second half, and we're like, at least in my head, I'm thinking, man, you lose to Penn State in this tournament last year. You lose to Indiana 2 years ago. Kind of been choking in the NCAA tournament a little bit, but now you go on a huge run in the Ohio State game, huge run in the Nebraska game, huge run in the second half of the Wisconsin game. And it's just a totally different narrative. Like, I think that's kind of what March is, especially you're probably not going to go out and beat Morehead State by like 45 points. You're not going to beat BYU or whoever by 45 points. Like, it's going to take some huge efforts, whether it's like the second half or just being aggressive defensively in the first half, stuff like that. As to like, Illinois is not going to necessarily blow these teams out. Like, obviously they didn't in this Big Ten tournament just now, but it's going to take like some huge effort plays, some huge like momentum turning plays, like a Ty Rogers rebound over a 7-footer, kicks it out for a three, a Dane Danger and one off an offensive rebound, stuff like that. Somebody forcing a turnover, maybe getting a look in transition. Like, it's the little things. It's like, there have been some moments in the regular season this year where Illinois has not been able to capitalize on some like little plays that turn into huge plays that change the momentum of the game. But I think they kind of showed that they can do that in this tournament, like you just mentioned. So I think the closing out close games late in the game, I don't know if that's really an issue anymore. Because like we've talked about this off the podcast, it can be kind of lucky sometimes. Like, in the regular season, the home team is probably going to win the game. If it's a close game, like whether it's because of officiating or just momentum with your fan base, whatever it is. So I don't know, like winning 3 games in a row on a neutral court in Minneapolis in front of a pretty nice Illini crowd, but the rest of the crowd was pretty dead. We might talk about that in a bit. But yeah, just really encouraging for Illinois. Really looking forward to this NCAA tournament in the next few days.
It's got to be the last time they play at Minneapolis, right? I mean, like Wisconsin had a really nice contingent there. You could feel it. Nebraska did. Iowa and Minnesota did for the one game that they were each in. But other than that, like this arena, I'm not going to pretend I was there. I'm certain if someone was actually there and wants to disagree, they can. But just based on how it felt on TV, it felt like it was really kind of dead. And I don't know, man. I'm hoping, like, I don't know. Are they going to go to Las Vegas or LA coming up here once these West Coast teams come in? Like, just put it in Chicago or
I hope not, dude.
Indianapolis. Because it just felt a little different, the Big Ten tournament this year, where some of these environments at the Big Ten tournament, you even saw like Madison Square Garden for the Big East tournament, just how electric that crowd was. The Big 12 tournament always brings out, like in Kansas City there, they've got great crowds there. And the Big Ten felt like, wasn't a ton of energy in the stands, whereas in some of these past ones, like in Indy, you could just feel like it feels like an NCAA tournament game where it's 50-50, one fan base and another are bringing 5,000 fans each there. So I don't know. Let's get it out of Minneapolis.
Even the ACC, I think it's Greensboro, North Carolina.
ACC was in D.C. this year, which also they're probably having the same discussion, like why the heck are we doing this in D.C.? It's weird.
Usually it's pretty nice usually for the ACC. That NC State run was crazy too.
DJ Burns, man. No one wants to see that guy in the tournament. That guy is a tank.
Yeah.
My God. It's like it's Kofi Coburn, but if all of his like force was in his gut, not his like arms,
Kofi and Dane combined.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. A couple other things here on the Big Ten. I mean, let's just spend a couple extra minutes here on marveling about this Terrence Shannon weekend. I mean, are we serious with these numbers? It was just, and the Nebraska game especially was about as good of a performance as I've seen. And I think we've both said it here on this podcast before, like, you know what? You're always going to have a chance if you've got the best player on the floor every time down. And Illinois is going to enter the NCAA tournament with one of the best players in the entire bracket, in the entire country, is on Illinois' side. And you're going to have a chance every time down. And there's just an unstoppability to what Terrence Shannon does. It's not like you don't really have to worry. Now, I know he's had a couple off nights, like the Purdue game, where he really was kind of ineffective, but like his game is more so you don't have to worry like, oh, Terrence might go 1 for 15 tonight and he might just have a really off night. Like if he's aggressive, if he's getting out in the open floor and if he's got his shot working to go along with all of that, he's going to get you 20-something points. He's going to get to the free throw line 14 times. You have no chance to stop him. His free throw shooting in this tournament was incredible. I know that not everyone's happy with some of the calls he gets. Believe me, I understand it. We feel the same way about like Zach Edey and some of these other guys. But you know what? He gets hacked there's no way to stop him. If he gets downhill, if he gets to his left hand, 3 guys are going to hack him before he scores the basketball. And he just was so unstoppable this entire tournament. What'd you make of just his individual dominance and how much that changes things for Illinois?
I don't know if I was talking to you or like somebody on Twitter or something, maybe a month back, I was saying, is Terrence Shannon, like, is it even comparable, Terrence Shannon in transition compared to Ayo Dosunmu? I said no, like no shot. Terrence Shannon's way better. And Ayo was kind of more controlled. He could like have a nice Euro step and finish in the lane, whatever it was. But Terrence is like the fastest player I've ever seen, the strongest player I've ever seen, the most physical. Like he'll take a 7-footer like full on and take the foul and make the bucket and make the free throw. Like he could go 1 for 15 in a tournament game, but he'll still go like 17 of 18 from the free throw line, get his 20 points. Like Illinois will be fine. So yeah, I mean, you throw in I think his 3-point I don't have numbers on this. I'll look it up right now. But the 3-point shooting seemed better this weekend too. We haven't really mentioned that recently. We had a lot of those episodes talking about, is Terrence Shannon going to be back to full force, full strength? And we had some debates on that. I think it's pretty clear he's past what he was earlier. Putting up 40 in a semifinal game is unheard of. Like, and then 34 in the championship. Like, I don't know, with 3 threes, 15 made free throws. I don't know. It was insane. I thought every time he touched the ball, I thought he was going to score. I thought he didn't really settle too much, maybe a couple times earlier in the weekend because the team just needed it. Like he had 18 of our first 25 points against Nebraska. For as much as we talked about the supporting cast stepping up, like there were some major moments where they were not there, including the first half against Nebraska, and he really had to just carry the load. So, I mean, Big Ten tournament MVP. I think he took out some anger for being snubbed from some first-team All-American lists, which is, I understand the situation. Like, I can understand if you want to penalize him for that or whatever.
Well, I mean, like, listen, the an All-American list is recognizing the basketball that's being played and the basketball players that are the
Yeah.
best basketball players in the country. Now, I understand if someone wants to make an argument that, well, he missed 6 games, so I'm going to dock him for that because he did miss 6 games. He's one of the, I don't think you can, to me, and I'm biased when I say this, other than Zach Edey, I don't think you can name anyone that I would agree with you is better than Terrence Shannon in the country right now. I know Dalton Connect has had some of these big games, but he doesn't have the two-way impact that Terrence does. R.J. Davis, probably as good offensively, he doesn't have the two-way impact. Like, it's ridiculous that he didn't make All-American teams. It's a
Even
shame,
like the
really.
Jerry West Award watch lists, like that couldn't have been because it's on court play, but that's kind of besides the point. He dominated this weekend. All Big Ten tournament team, all Big Ten tournament MVP, putting up 35 a game pretty much with the defense too. Unreal performance.
Yeah, and just to give you the numbers on the three, shooting 10 of 22 over the 3 games, 45% for him. So
we'll take that every
if
single
he's
day.
got that, like that comes and goes for him a little bit more than, some of the other parts of his game. He's making 45% of his threes to go along with getting to the free throw line 15 times a game and getting out in transition, getting 6-2s at the rim. Like, he's not going to get stopped. And Illinois is going to be as dangerous as anyone in the tournament if you get that version of him. Now, there's going to be a night where he's not giving you 30, and that's when you got to have a guy like Marcus Damask have one of his big nights and maybe get a little more offensively from Coleman and Quincy. But, yeah, if you get that version of Terrence, I think Illinois is going a long way. And I think it's safe to say, I mean, we wondered, will he ever get back to like the Missouri version of Terrence after the suspension? I think he's better than that. I mean, he passed that somehow. He is on a different level, and boy, that was really fun to watch on his part in the Big Ten tournament. What else here from this run? I mean, I feel like there's so much. We record these after all 3 games, so there's so much from each game that were crazy. But just kind of a culmination. Anything else stand out to you? Any other shout outs you want to make here? Any other takeaways?
I don't know. Shout out Dre for that bucket in the championship. I don't know. Like the bench, I thought the bench had some pretty brutal moments at points, but overall, just nothing to complain about. Like the goal is the second weekend, but this is pretty damn fun too. Like winning 3 games against 3 pretty solid Big Ten teams, all trying to make a tournament. Like, I don't know. You can't beat it. That was super fun.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, and by the way, Illinois, I know we're going to get to it here on our next episode coming out tomorrow, but you were comfortably a 3 seed after this Big Ten tournament. We thought that was dead, and Illinois said, well, what if we win every game? Then what are you going to do with that? So they also got a lot of help from some of these other conference tournament potential 3 seeds like a Duke and Kansas and all these teams losing early, but Illinois took advantage. Did catch a break not seeing Purdue. That's the one thing. It would have felt just a little bit sweeter. I'm not complaining about it. Would have felt a little bit sweeter to knock Purdue off in that round 3 matchup. But hey, Wisconsin beat them. Their friends will tell you they didn't care about the tournament. That's why they lost. But they would have been juiced up to play Illinois a third time. I mean, come on. It would have been fun. But
yeah, you look back in 10 years, you're not going to be thinking about like borderline 3 or 4 seed. You're going to be thinking about the Big Ten tournament. I'm fine. I'll take the win over Wisconsin every single time. But yeah, absolutely. I agree. Beating Purdue would have been pretty funny.
Well, Illinois, Big Ten champs. That is going to be fun. This team will come back to State Farm Center at some point early next season, get a banner hung up at State Farm Center, 3rd time in 4 seasons. I mean, it's funny. This weekend, I didn't see any fire Brad Underwood. This guy sucks as a coach tweets out there. Isn't that funny how that works? Like when he actually wins stuff that we don't get those silly tweets.
I was close to throwing out a Blunderwood tweet with about 10 minutes to go in the second half of the OSU game, but we pulled through. Going to be hanging a banner, hopefully 2 banners next year in November. So nothing to complain about from me. Yeah,
we need a second one. We're not satisfied with one here. Illinois said it in the trophy ceremony after the game. They got 6 games left to play. That's the mindset you got to have here. I certainly feel a lot more confident. Let's end on that question. How much more confident when you sat watching the Big Ten tournament on Thursday night before Illinois had even played until now? How much more confident did this run make you in this team's ability to do some damage in the big tournament?
I'm gonna sound kind of hypocritical if you go back and look at our last few episodes where I'm talking like Illinois needs a marquee win. They got to beat Purdue. But I don't know. Like I felt pretty good after the Iowa win at Iowa to close the regular season. But beating three more teams, three more times on neutral sites, huge contributions from the bench, and just dominance from Damask and Shannon. Like I feel pretty good. Really figured out how to close out some games. Defense still struggles, but like the offense is so good. I don't really care at this point. I'm just going to enjoy the ride.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I'm a lot more confident going in, especially like if Illinois had ended up losing that Ohio State game. Think how much different we feel. But just and we kind of talked about it, just the way that they just found ways to win these games. They were all close games. They all came down to the wire. They all had their obstacles. They all had their deficits to overcome. And that's just kind of what you need in this single elimination setting. You need to see a team that's capable of coming together and finding ways to win games against tournament caliber competition. I mean, Ohio State probably would have been in the tournament had they beat you. Nebraska is a for sure tournament team. Wisconsin's on the 5 line in the tournament. I agree with you. The one thing that I'm still always going to be a little bit, nervous about, even as we, break down our bracket here coming up on our next episode, has Illinois beaten a team that they're going to see in the Sweet 16 or a team that they're going to see in the Elite Eight? They don't have that win. That they haven't proven that they can beat that caliber of team yet. But I think there's no question this team's dangerous, and in a single elimination setting, which while your season didn't end in the Big Ten tournament had you lost, it was a single elimination. You go home, and your chance to win a Big Ten title is over if you lose. And Illinois found ways to win. I think that bodes well going into the big tournament. So I'm a lot more confident based on what I just saw, especially when you factor in how dominant Terrence Shannon looks right now heading into the NCAA tournament than I was on Thursday night or Friday afternoon before Illinois had taken the floor. But let's talk some NCAA tournament. That episode will be released tomorrow. Just a reminder that we'll have 2 separate episodes coming out. So this one, obviously Monday is hopefully when you're listening to this one. And then Tuesday we'll release a second episode where we will talk about the NCAA tournament, Illinois' draw, Illinois' region, Illinois' first round opponent, Morehead State. So stay on the lookout for that one tomorrow. For now, give us a follow at Champagne on Ice on Twitter. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Field of 68 Podcast Network. Find us on all your podcast platforms. Apple Podcast, Spotify, anywhere else, and we will have a ton of March content coming your way. It is the best time of year. You don't want to miss that. But join us again tomorrow. Let's talk some NCAA tournament. For now, enjoy this Big Ten championship for the Fighting Illini, and we'll see you next time.